Hello, I'm Stan Hemmings.
And I'm Janet Rose, and welcome to KSLT Live News. Our top story today, Santa Luisa Del Mar's newly elected mayor is receiving more criticism. Another group of concerned citizens has called a news conference to blast what it calls the city's lack of preparation needed to respond to a natural disaster. Last year's flooding in the Midwest recently has prompted increased public awareness of the need for immediate and adequate response by local officials. A spokesman for the group of residents told reporters he's learned of a new report issued by the governor's office that indicates most cities in the state are not ready for major disasters. Now, the group of citizens was especially critical of the city's fire department. They charge that the department's equipment is antiquated and training is sadly lacking. The mayor and fire chief both responded that they've not seen that study and cannot comment.
There are some reports of damage today following a sharp earthquake in the Southern California area early this morning. Officials say there are no injuries, but several buildings did receive minor structural damage during the 3 a.m. shaker centered in the Palm Springs area. Seismologists at the Caltech laboratory say the quake registered a magnitude 4.5. There were localized power outages in some areas due to the quake. Police report hundreds of calls from anxious residents. One official said he was glad the quake didn't happen during the day when thousands of people would be at work. Seismologists say today's quake was just one of several that have shaken the southern part of California in recent weeks. These recent quakes have created more attention for a prominent geologist from Santa Luisa State University, who has posted a series of earthquake forecasts online. Dr. Harold Johnstone, a member of the governor's task force on earthquake preparedness, says he's developed a probability system for forecasting earthquakes. KSLT News has learned that Dr. Johnstone believes a major quake may strike Santa Luisa Del Mar soon, but several experts hotly dispute that prediction.
In other news, the City Council is scheduled to take up the issue of hillside development again later this month. Developers insist their plans for new homes include enough open space and landscaping so the hillsides will not be damaged. Some City Council members and members of the Planning Commission are not convinced. Developers are planning a series of public meetings in an attempt to convince concerned citizens. Other issues facing the city this month include the continuing traffic problems near the Santa Luisa Mall. The week-long promotional event at the mall has been said by police to be tying up traffic on I-9 and Highway 186 around the mall. Merchants and motorists are both complaining that they want more traffic control from the city police and the CHP. I know every time I go to the mall, I was there last week. I know, I was at the mall. Shocking.
What do you mean you were at the mall? You give guided tours at the mall.
I do, I know. But you have to leave like 30 minutes to get in and out. It's so congested.
It's rough with the construction down there. It doesn't help at all. All right, today is the second anniversary of the high surf damage that destroyed much of the Santa Luisa Harbor Pier. All of the businesses on the pier have now reopened, and the owners tell Channel 5 News that the tourists are back and business is back to where it was before the storm damaged that historic pier. Well, there are more problems for city government today. A coalition of minority and student groups in Santa Luisa is petitioning the mayor and city council to upgrade housing near the campus and in low-income areas of the city. The groups contend that several apartment buildings in the downtown area are dangerous. They say if an earthquake were to strike the city, hundreds could die, both downtown and near the university campus, where some of the older apartment buildings are made of older brick construction, what they call unreinforced masonry buildings. At a rally last night, several speakers told the crowd they are afraid to go to sleep at night because of poor construction in their buildings. The spokesman contend that past efforts to get the city to act on the poor housing has fallen on deaf ears. The mayor has said that the city is concerned about the buildings and has an unreinforced masonry ordinance, but it's a more complicated problem than most people think. The mayor said that the repairs are prohibitively expensive for some property owners, and the alternatives for enforcing the ordinance, placing liens on these properties or forcing demolition, could have serious impacts on the local economy.
Well, we've had a bit more cool weather this week than usual. Let's check in with a look at our weather with our resident meteorologist, Stacey Roberts. And I guess with this recent earthquake prediction, perhaps also our resident seismologist. Stacey is out in the field today for the latest weather. Stacey.
Thanks, Janet. Well, I'm not sure earthquake expert is in my job description, but considering Dr. Johnstone's predictions for the week, I've been studying up on my geology and have read the latest literature from USGS and Caltech Seismological Lab. As for the weather, it has been cooler out there this week. An area of low pressure continues to hang over us, and it's going to usher in even cooler air overnight. So we will wake up to chilly conditions tomorrow morning, and temperatures will not rise all that much during the day. We're also expecting gusty northwest winds up to 20 miles per hour, and that could put a damper on this weekend's Classic Car Festival. Hopefully, it'll clear up before then. Stan?
All right, thanks, Stacy. That's our news update for today. Join Janet Rose and me and the entire news team tonight at 10 o'clock for all of today's news. Hello, I'm Stan Hemmings.
And I'm Janet Rose, and welcome to KSLT Live News. Our top story today, there is an 80% chance a major earthquake will strike the Santa Luisa del Mar area within the next few months. That's the astounding prediction today from the head of the Santa Luisa State University's Geology Department, Dr. Harold Johnstone. In an exclusive KSLT interview, our resident seismologist and meteorologist Stacy Roberts spoke with Dr. Johnstone about his prediction.
My announcement today is that there is an 80% probability of a 7.3 to 8.0 earthquake right here in Santa Luisa del Mar on the M&M Fault. That earthquake could possibly occur within the next 10 days.
Dr. Johnstone, what do you base your predictions on?
We're looking at factors such as reports of increased levels of radon gas from the offshore gas wells. We are looking at reports of increased bizarre behavior of animals. Many people are reporting that their dogs are unusually restless and agitated. We are looking at earth creep. We are looking at the extensive system of scientific instrumentation that is telling us that there has been much more low-level ground shaking, and that the minor earthquakes that occurred both north and south of here have placed additional strain on the M&M Fault. But the fault section that runs through Santa Luisa del Mar on the M&M Fault has not moved. It's locked. And that's a very, very dangerous situation.
Well, I'm sure that you're aware that a number of your colleagues have disagreed with your predictions.
Well, let me address what my colleagues think. My colleagues are more conservative, but I'm pushing the envelope here because in the hopes of saving lives. I have 25 years of solid scientific study in seismology and geology, both here and in China and Japan. Studying animal behavior in China led us to successfully predict an earthquake and evacuate thousands of people before the major shaker occurred. In Italy, we observed a number of medium-sized earthquakes that we interpreted to be foreshocks, but our predictions were dismissed. Several days later, hundreds of people were killed when classic old buildings collapsed during a big earthquake that happened in the night. So we have had some prediction successes, and our predictions should be taken more seriously.
And you've said that the government should take more responsibility with regard to your predictions.
Our government should be doing the responsible thing. It should be explaining our predictions and widely broadcasting them to the public so that they can be prepared.
So what do you plan on doing this week?
Well, I'm going to our vacation plans. My family and I are getting out of town.
Well, Dr. Johnstone certainly seems to be taking his own advice and getting out of town, wondering how many people will actually heed that warning.
Absolutely. You know, just like with hurricanes, you just never know. You tell people, you give them a good warning, and then a certain number of people say, you know what, I'm going to sit tight. And then the police have to deal with that situation in the aftermath. So, all right, well, we'll certainly be talking more about that. Today's prediction by Dr. Johnstone didn't sit too well with several minority and student groups in Santa Luisa. About 3 hours after Johnstone held his news conference, representatives from 3 local groups held their own meeting with reporters to express their concern over what they call dangerous student and downtown housing. Spokesman Jose Delgado angrily denounced the mayor for what Delgado calls blatant disregard for the safety of thousands of city residents. Delgado promised legal action if the mayor doesn't take immediate steps to fortify several old buildings in the downtown area. The buildings were constructed in the early 30s of brick and masonry construction. And studies have shown that these types of buildings are especially dangerous in the event of an earthquake. The mayor refused to respond to Delgado's charges, saying that the city attorney would have a statement by Friday.
Today's earthquake prediction by Dr. Johnstone also raised the question of the safety of the Santa Luisa Dam. Engineers say the dam, which was built in 1894, is able to withstand an earthquake of at least 6.5 on the Richter scale. Now, Dr. Johnstone predicted a quake of anywhere from 6.5 to 8.0 within 2 weeks. Experts say both the magnitude 7.2 Loma Prieta earthquake in 1989 and the 7.3 Landers quake in 1992 did not cause any dams to break. Luckily, more recent California earthquakes have not been as large as those two. However, the dam's age and the proximity of the dam to the fault line are of concern to many scientists. Santa Luisa's new community development director says that the department's first priority is review of the city's general plan, with special emphasis placed on the safety element survey. The director also said that the city is working on an update to its local hazard mitigation plan. Concerns for the dam's safety are well warranted. There are thousands of people living directly in the path of any water released from the dam that probably would not have time to be evacuated if the dam were to be destroyed. Now, a word of caution. Now, several experts dispute Dr. Johnstone's prediction.
Well, Santa Luisa's mayor is reacting sharply to the news of a predicted earthquake. Reached at his secluded beach house at Pirates Cove, the mayor told KSLT News none of the studies that the city has seen indicate a quake of the magnitude predicted by Dr. Johnstone. As we reported earlier in this newscast, the newly elected head of the city has been under attack by several minority and student groups for allegedly failing to take any action to correct what the groups claim is substandard and dangerous housing. The groups claim that a major earthquake could result in thousands of deaths and injuries. The mayor says the issue is much broader than that, and that communities all over California face the challenge of bringing structures up to earthquake-resistant condition. The mayor also said the city's police and fire departments are adequately prepared to respond to any emergency, regardless of its size.
Well, you might say this is flu weather, right? The Santa Luisa County Health Department reports a large increase in the number of influenza cases in recent weeks, in line with the World Health Organization's recent updates. Now, there are several immunization clinics throughout the county, but whether or not the shots will work in time is just not known. Shots are recommended for children, the elderly, and women who are pregnant. The health department is concerned that this flu season could be worse, as there are a number of parents who are refusing vaccinations for their children.
And now to close our news update for this Tuesday, a KSLT editorial. Just a little while ago, we told you about a geologist's prediction that a major earthquake may soon strike Santa Luisa Del Mar. Now, we don't want to spread panic, and we're not urging anyone to leave, but we are concerned. Recently, several concerned citizens have urged the mayor to respond to charges that the city is not ready to react in case of a major emergency. We think, in light of today's development, whether you choose to believe it or not, the city leaders must speak and must tell us if our fire and police departments can respond when called upon. A look at the past record of call response times for both departments may not be encouraging. A recent state report indicates we need some shaping up, and fast. Now, there's more to worry about here. KSL-TV has been contacted by a number of anxious parents who want to know why their children have not participated in any realistic or meaningful fire or evacuation drills in the past 2 years. They also want to know if their schools are safe. Now, we want to know these things too. We call on the city, the mayor, and the city council and the city management to act now.
Well, the Santa Luisa Classic Car Show is scheduled for this weekend, but the weather may put a little bit of a damper on it this year. Let's head out to Stacy Roberts, our meteorologist and resident seismologist out at the Santa Luisa Mall, the site of this year's car show, for a weather update. Stacy.
Well, Janet, rain is expected tomorrow for the Santa Luisa Del Mar area. A fairly decent-sized storm is expected to approach us and bring heavy rain starting tomorrow, possibly lasting through the end of the week. This could cancel the annual Classic Car Show this weekend. The unsettled weather is also bringing cooler than normal temperatures to our region. Southerly winds will shift to northwest winds once the storm front passes, and we could see gusts of up to 35 miles per hour. We're keeping our fingers crossed, though, for a dry weekend so the car enthusiasts can enjoy this year's event. Stan?
All right, thank you, Stacy. That is today's news update. Join Janet, Rose, and me and the entire news team tonight at 10 for a look at all the day's news. Hello, I'm Stan Hemmings.
And I'm Janet Rose, and welcome to KSLT Live News. Our top story today, the town of Los Hermanos, which is located about 100 miles northeast of San Francisco, experienced a strong earthquake this morning. Authorities say some buildings in the older downtown area received moderate damage in the magnitude 5.8 quake. Police in that city say hundreds of people called, but there are no reports of major damage. In Los Hermanos, dozens of windows were shattered, power was cut off, and at least one mobile home was destroyed by fire. No one was home at the time of the blaze. Now, area hospitals report several minor injuries, mostly from falling debris and broken glass. Santa Luisa State University geologist Dr. Harold Johnstone today defended his prediction that a major earthquake will hit our area within just a few weeks. Johnstone told KSLT yesterday that several new scientific techniques enable him to accurately predict when an earthquake will strike and how strong it will be. Several seismologists have sharply criticized Johnstone, calling his predictions premature, and they charge he's spreading panic. Johnstone counters that other seismologists have not kept up with his studies of early earthquake detection techniques in the U.S. and Japan and is sticking to his prediction. Now, Johnstone says he predicted today's quake near Los Hermanos 3 weeks ago.
In other news, Santa Luisa school officials say they plan to hold a public meeting with concerned parents and representatives to address concerns that the city's schools are not adequately prepared for a major disaster. For 3 weeks now, spokesmen from 4 groups of parents in 2 different areas of the city have expressed their fears that some of the buildings used for classes are not safe. They've also charged that some schools have not conducted serious disaster drills for at least 2 years. School officials say they will wait until the public meeting scheduled for Friday to respond to those charges. Meanwhile, Santa Luisa Del Mar's Office of Emergency Services says that the city is prepared for a major disaster. City officials are being criticized after a report from the governor's office indicated San Luisa Del Mar and several other cities in the state have room for improvement in their disaster preparation plans. Our city manager told KSLT TV News that the city has an adequate disaster plan and all city departments are as prepared as possible for any emergencies with the resources available to the city. Santa Luisa was also criticized in that state report for not having adequate equipment, training, and slow response times for even routine emergencies. They also noted that the city's disaster plan had been prepared without adequate input from members of the disabled community and those with access and functional needs. The city manager says several key city officials recently returned from emergency management training, and they now are fully prepared to improve and coordinate the city's emergency response plans.
In other news, 3 people have died of complications resulting from a strain of influenza that has now been reported in the Santa Luisa del Mar area. The victims, who are all in their 80s, apparently did not take shots that might have prevented them from catching the flu bug. A health department spokesman says the victims did not go to the free clinic set up by the county. Now, a county health director told KSLT TV there is fear that the flu could now spread rapidly among the elderly. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission says the security plans for our area's nuclear power plant will have to be revised again. That report was based on an NRC force-on-force exercise conducted just a few months ago. Full details of the inspection are not subject to public disclosure. That decision comes one day after the plant, located just north of Santa Luisa del Mar on the coast, resumed operation after being shut down for a month because of steam turbine problems. Central California Power and Light, owners of the twin reactor plant, say that the facility is once again producing 100% power. And CCPL spokeswoman Missy Pierce says all the new earthquake supports are in place and the plant meets all federal earthquake standards. Now, those new rules require nuclear power plants to withstand a quake measuring 7.0 on the Richter scale. Pierce says the plant can easily withstand a shaker of that magnitude.
In this related item, the death toll from the tsunami in Japan has now reached 192. The tsunami followed a recent major quake in northern Japan and raises questions about that possibility, a tsunami, here along the shores of Santa Luisa del Mar. A tidal wave in 1891 caused extensive coastal damage and killed several people. In other news, ridership is up on the Santa Luisa del Mar's new light rail system. The light rail now goes from the airport through downtown to the university and to the sports arena. The city's anti-gang task force continues its work and its graffiti eradication program at light rail stops and on the cars. And I rode this thing to the airport.
Yeah.
What a way to go. You don't have to worry about parking. It's easy. It's clean.
Do you know how much extra things you can do when you don't have to worry about traffic or parking? Yeah, light rail's the way to go.
Absolutely.
All right, let's send it out to Stacey Roberts with what we can expect with our weather for the rest of the week. Stacey.
Well, Janet, for the Santa Luisa Del Mar area, the KSLT Futurecast model now indicates that storm we've been worried about all week may miss us entirely. Our best estimate at this hour is for scattered showers with gusty winds, strong northwesterly winds as the front passes by. So the weather might end up being just fine after all for the classic car show this weekend, if not maybe a little windy. We'll keep you posted on that. Stan?
All right, thank you, Stacy. And that is today's news update. Stay tuned to KSLT News as we keep a close watch on our changing weather. And join us at 10 for all the news. Hello, I'm Stan Hemmings.
And I'm Janet Rose, and welcome to KSLT Live News. In breaking news, KSLT has just learned police in Los Hermanos have arrested 5 people on charges of looting following yesterday's earthquake. Damage estimates in that Northern California town so far have exceeded more than $20 million. On Tuesday, KSLT meteorologist Stacey Roberts had an exclusive interview with the head of the Santa Luisa University Geology Department, Dr. Harold Johnstone, who claimed to have successfully predicted this week's earthquakes. Stacey, you're out at Dr. Johnstone's home in Santa Luisa to get his thoughts on the quakes this week. What have you found out?
Well, Janet, we are outside of Dr. Johnstone's home, which is close to the university. And as he indicated to us on Tuesday, it appears that he and his family have left town due to his recent quake predictions. Several knocks on the door and calls to his cell phone have gone unanswered. So again, it appears that Dr. Johnstone has taken his own advice and left town with his family this week.
It does appear that way, Stacey. His recent predictions. Earthquake! Is that an earthquake?
It is.
Get down, get under the desk!